Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues with Bonnie Violet.
And Lulu.
Each week we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
Our intention is to inspire better spaces for more people in recovery.
By tackling topics used to separate us.
Absolutely. And so before we begin, please like, comment, and share, and most important, subscribe. So, Bonnie Violet, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Anything special happened to you this week?
Anything special happened to me this week? I filmed a music video with like choreography and a girl band, everything. It was really cool.
All right now. For those of you watching, isn't Bonnie Violet? She's looking amazing.
Right.
Wonderful. So for me, I think there was a lot that went down, but this morning I kind of started, well, actually I started the journey last week, but I started the journey of exercise again. I joined Fitness SF here in San Francisco. Obviously that's the SF part.
Right.
But I feel like this time, and last time I said it was a fat tax because I think I went for 4 years and didn't, or I paid for 4 years and I really didn't go. But this time I met with a trainer and laid out a program. And so I feel like I'm on the journey now. It's just a matter of me doing the work,
Yeah, that's great. You were just talking about that like a week or so ago that you were wanting to do that, and look at you, you're doing it.
Well, it's interesting. It's like, this is a nice little segue into what we're talking about today. There's the stages of recovery or getting better. It's like I had been in the contemplative stage of wanting to work out forever, and finally I'm in the action phase, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, those are stages of change?
Absolutely, the stages of change.
Changes of change. So today we're talking about the different paths to recovery, and we're going to focus a little bit on the why.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking about so when we first thought about the paths to recovery, I was thinking, a lot of times we have to ask the question, why do people recover? Why do people go that route? Honestly, there's a lot of folks who kind of stay stagnant and don't find recovery. But something that I wanted to share, because I was looking this up, because thank God for Google
right?
and the internet. I typed in 100 reasons to recover, and some of the things, and these are all sweet, to stop hating yourself, for the first person who said they would never give up on you, so you won't be the only one drinking Diet Coke while everybody's having pizza. I don't know. These are all super random, but yeah.
Right. So why did you consider recovery?
Well, I think that I had finally gotten to a place where I realized that I wasn't moving forward in my life. My relationships at work, they were just stagnant. I had no joy. I had nothing to look forward to. And I was slowly killing myself. I think that because of my relationship to alcohol and crystal meth, like I always said, that the longer that I was participating in that, I was kind of chipping away at my soul. So I had nothing to go on for. And I think that for me, I reached a point where it was either that or just to be done completely.
Right.
I don't want to be morbid, but that was just a lousy existence. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I was at a state of, in a lot of ways, there was some really great things going for me. I was running a nonprofit that, I felt like I was really part of something that was bigger than me. Yeah. But I was starting to make really dumb mistakes when I was drinking and things that were jeopardizing, I think, my reputation and just my morals, I guess. And I was just afraid that if I continued, I would ruin all that. And it was about really trying to show up for that thing that was bigger than me, which was my purpose around HIV/AIDS prevention and things like that.
So the path that you chose, 12-step, was that your initial
I think that was my initial first time of saying, hey, maybe I have a problem. I had, and I honestly, it was somebody told me, because I woke up, it was Mother's Day morning, and I just was feeling really crappy. It wasn't after the night that I drank the most or, anything like that. But he suggested that I go to AA because he thought alcohol was maybe my problem. And I thought I was doing asshole kind of things. And so I thought if I just removed the alcohol, then I wouldn't be an asshole anymore. I really didn't think I had a problem with it. I just thought maybe if I didn't do it, I might start to get better results in life. And then actually, once I actually started the recovery process, it was a lot harder. I hadn't realized how much in my life and how much just life in general centers around alcohol or partying or that sort of thing. And so until I actually went to get rid of it, I didn't realize how much it had consumed my life.
Absolutely. I think that for me, I did all the things that you normally do, like growing up. I was a woo-woo girl, I drank, I did those things like I was supposed to do. And I was actually a late bloomer because I didn't really start drinking until I was 23.
I was late too.
Yeah. So, but for me, I think that, like I'm obviously like I'm in 12. Well, not obviously if you don't know me, but I'm in 12-step now. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't my initial path. I think I tried going with a therapist, but obviously I wasn't able to be honest with that therapist, mm-hmm. and I had some recovery. I had some recovery for a short time, but from there. I kind of like with you, I was able to kind of get suggestions from folks, and I followed my heart. Yeah. Actually, I went into a treatment program called Acceptance-Based here in San Francisco, and from there, I was able to kind of make the transition into 12-step and other forms of recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hadn't, when I was getting sober, I realized, like looking back, how many times I was actually already I had started to try to recover before like I officially joined a program and like intentionally, cause I stopped meth and then I was just drinking and, it was weird. I was 3 years into recovery. I moved to Chicago and I was introduced to CMA. And that's when I started identifying as an addict cause I loved crystal meth. That actually is like probably my drug of choice next to ecstasy, but the way that I was in my life, I knew that would even jeopardize more. So I had to do drink because it was legal. But I had actually like taken a moment where like I got off meth. Like mm-hmm. I moved home with my parents back in Idaho. I lived in a camp trailer and I got off of meth, but I never saw that as me having a problem. Like it was just like, girl's tired.
I think one of the first times I tried to get better, I didn't see that the drugs and alcohol were an issue. I felt like I was exhausted. You know how celebrities are. I was tired and I needed some time to kind of regroup.
Right. Well, it was interesting because, even like before, say, recovery around my substance use and stuff, my substance use was actually, I think, part of my recovery from like the trauma, spiritual trauma and trauma of like realizing that I was queer and being diagnosed with HIV and not being able to bring that to like my spiritual community and having to leave church and like it was a very traumatic experience for me. So I think drugs and alcohol, they gave me life. And they allowed me to live a life that Absolutely. I couldn't have lived on my own. And so I'm very appreciative to drugs and alcohol for the time that they were good for me. Eventually, it got to a place where I needed to, because I felt like drugs and alcohol softened the blow of life.
Oh, yeah.
And at some point, it wasn't doing that anymore. It wasn't softening the blow anymore. And so I had to let go of it in order to try to find some sort of relief.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I can look back on it and I think it's in retrospect because at the time and even early recovery, I couldn't tell you that I had gratitude for the drugs and alcohol, but I had reached a point where I just couldn't deal with the emotions. I didn't have the bandwidth. And I think that I would have, I probably would have done something drastic, maybe tried suicide or whatever, but I just couldn't deal with it. And so it, like you said, it softened the blow.
Yeah.
It helped me to kind of get through. And unfortunately, when at the beginning, I think that it was depression because I always say at the beginning of the heaviest part of my drug use, it was a dark place. and it was a depression. And it was because of my relationship too, and that I was able to get through that without like too many consequences. I mean, obviously I was doing a lot of damage to myself, but.
Right. Well, and I mean, I think that kind of like when we get to the space of why recovery, it's like, why is there something we need to recover from anyway? You know, like how did the drugs and alcohol, or how did the overeating, or how did the whatever it is that we're recovering
Sex addiction,
from,
anything that you feel like you're doing at a detriment to yourself, like anything that you're overdoing or that you're doing in a way that is unhealthy.
Right. It's like what caused us to reach for whatever that thing is, you know, as some sort of like soothing or salve.
Exactly. Or escape. And I think that we
Escape,
exactly. we were talking about it before, and I think that, you know, this was our reaction to trauma, to other things that, you know, we had to deal with. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know why it is that I chose drugs and alcohol, or why somebody chooses food or sex or what have you. But I think it's a beautiful thing that we do have these systems in place, these programs, this variety of things that allow us to kind of get back to who we are or who we want to become.
Right.
And so it's another nice segue into, like, we were going to talk a little bit about the types of programs that are there, and, you know, maybe not get as into detail about them, but the ones that we do know about, because obviously you and I, we can speak on the programs that we know about. Right. And then, and if you're tuning in and you have something that you want to add, by all means, please, because I don't know about you, but I want to be educated.
Right? Teach us. We want to hear from you. We know our experience, but we don't know anything beyond that. So
exactly. It's like the man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all. I like that.
Like, that's the best place to find yourself when you're at that state of like not knowing, and Absolutely. Like being okay with it is kind of a powerful place.
Humility. To be. Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting, especially like being an adult, like, because I'm 50, I know I don't look it.
Not at all.
I'm 50, I can kick and scream and stretch. No, but you come into recovery, already having lived, and there's this weird dichotomy that, like, I should know, I should be this, and the reality of it is that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and if you just kind of step back and listen and take it in and ask for support in the way that you need, you can move forward.
Yeah. So that's you're meaning that within recovery or before?
Before.
Always, right?
Always.
Yeah. What did the people say? Don't shit all over yourself.
Hello.
I said should, not the other word.
So let's talk a little bit about the harm reduction.
Harm reduction?
I think that especially like for drugs and alcohol, harm reduction is something that, like, there are a lot of folks that, like, have very strong opinions about harm reduction, and for me, in the past, I believed, oh my God, it's a way to coddle, But I think that one of the aspects of harm reduction that I absolutely value is the idea of meeting people where they are. Because I think that, like, what I know to be true is that you don't have to. I just realized something. I say that all the time. What do I know to be true? You can't play a game. How many times do I say that? But no, it's like. The whole idea of like I'm not ready, I don't know, but I'm doing harm, and I don't know that there's something better for me. Right. And I participated in a lot of groups before I got sober that were harm reduction, and this idea of, you know, okay, I'm not ready to change, but maybe I need to change the things that might be kind of doing the most damage, and so. Right. I don't know, that
kind of hold you over until you can get to that space.
Absolutely, because I think that it's almost like, you know, you gotta settle yourself, get to a place where you get to make the decision, because I don't know about you, but I was pretty defiant.
Yeah. Well, I was just really, delusional.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really see what was really going on in my life. Like I wouldn't allow myself to really see what was going on. So I had started doing harm reduction. And so that's why like I guess, like I don't think it's my place to really have an opinion on anyone's recovery and their process.
Yeah.
But I know that harm reduction was a part of my process, even if it wasn't that I went to a group every Wednesday called harm reduction. Mm-hmm. It was like, I know that I started doing things in my life to reduce the harm that was going on.
Absolutely.
Like I was, I don't know, I would, like I talked about, I would switch my alcohol to, from liquor to just beer, or I quit meth and then just went to alcohol.
The times when I want to take a break from meth, I would just do cocaine.
Right.
It would let me eat. And
I hated
sleep.
cocaine. It didn't last long enough.
I know.
I got to cocaine after meth, so it was like, oh, why? And that was like, that's a whole nother story, but we bought it at a McDonald's.
Oh.
Which was interesting, but
okay.
Well, so we digress.
I know that's going to be the CCC after hours.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about the harm reduction, and obviously we have been alluding just because the both of us are in 12-step. 12-step is another option, and I think that what I want to do for myself, I want to make sure that I am mindful, because 12-step works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay. I think that the key is to find what works for you. The reason why 12-step worked for me is because my life had gotten so small. Like I was living in an SRO, and I was an outreach specialist for this organization, and the clients that I had, they lived in the building also. So I had no kind of escape from, and I didn't know how to do self-care, because I think when you're doing nonprofit, you need to self-care. So I basically was in a box, literally, and I needed to get away, and there was a point where I just kind of I imploded, and after listening to all the suggestions, like, okay, go for it.
Right.
And 12-step has been great for me, because finding how to be with people again, because I think that was a challenge.
Yeah, do you know what is it about the 12-step, or what about that is different from anything else?
Well, I'm a Virgo. Okay, I like structure.
I don't know what that means.
I know. Well, I like structure. Because you know how we were talking about asking for help and being open to things. It's like, I think that I was sick, and my sick mind didn't know how to heal my sick mind.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about the programs that I do is the meetings, the repetition, the hearing, the working with others, and not having to do this by yourself. And I realize that some folks instantly, they kind of zero in on the spiritual part of it, and assume that it's a religious program. And you have to figure that out for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things that actually drew me to the 12-step program was the spiritual aspect of it, because I had went so long as a queer person, because religion and God was such a big part of my life. So I was kind of drawn to it because I saw queers and I saw people who I didn't think would have any sort of spirituality or talk about God, and they were talking about God. And those two things were existing at the same time. And that was something I really missed, and something that I wanted to experience. So I do love the fact that 12-step is a spiritual program, but it's not religious, and it's not like anything like I had ever experienced before.
Absolutely. And so we have there are so many different types of 12-step programs. I think obviously AA being the mother program and being the template, but a lot of other programs will adopt the steps that are taken for the program. So you have things like OA, Overeaters Anonymous, I think FA.
What's FA?
Food. It's a more restrictive version of OA. I think it's like advanced. No, I think it's advanced OA.
Oh, okay.
Debtors Anonymous. There's an anonymous for everything. Marijuana Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. I think and really, I was talking to someone. I think that for me, And I always say that when I chose the place that I went for treatment, I chose a place that, you know, focused on gay and bisexual men. If I could have chosen a place that where everybody was named Lewis and they were black and they were my age,
Right.
meaning every little thing, taking all of the variables out of it and making it an easier kind of experience, because I think it's the difference is sometimes, especially when you come in and you're paranoid or you're not trusting, it makes it harder to kind of like let your guard down and get in, you know, do the work that you need to do. I mean, it takes a little while, but
and like depending on where you're at, I think in the country or like what city you're in or maybe what your experience is, I think, like you were saying, AA is pretty common. That's where I first, you know, started program was in Idaho, because that was pretty much what was going on. And one of the things too was like queer meetings, you know, like meeting other queer people in recovery was great, but I would have to say that I loved, you know, there was only like 1 or 2 a week, which was a lot, but then, you know, that meant I needed to go to straight meetings. And to some degree, I gained so much from, I think I grew so much because I was in those rooms, because I was so, I was scared of them. I was scared of straight people, straight men in particular, hurting me because of who I am. And so it was really helpful to be in a space in which I was seeing a different side of people that I had bad experiences with in the past. And so I think it caused me to really, I just think that was good for me. You know, it started to alleviate some more fear, and it also created more community and more connection. And I had a hard time being around gay people all the time. Like I always felt like I had to play some sort of role, or it was really hard for me just to be real and raw and not be performative in some way.
No, absolutely. I think the things that worked for me in my active addiction, it was tough to unlearn those behaviors like gossip and being overly sexual and, you know, just things of that nature. And then learning to trust that when people said they wanted you to be there, or that they loved you and they wanted to see the best for you, trust that was really true, just because, you know, all of the past experiences that, you know, we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's great. So we have 12-step and all the different types of 12-step, but then there are other programs. And I know that you did a little research on.
Yeah, I was checking out some things. And, you know, I mean, I think nowadays too, a lot of folks are, you know, utilizing coaches or mental health. And I mean, at the end of the day, or like mental health services, like seeing a therapist on a regular basis. I've seen a lot of people hiring recovery coaches, which seems to be helpful for folks as well. So, I mean, part of it is really, I mean, it really just comes down to what is useful to you, what is going to work and what feels right. And things can change. You know, I think I sometimes wonder if I was in therapy, if I wasn't in therapy at the time that I got sober, like what role that played in it. You know, the fact that I was on antidepressants, did that make it helpful? It's interesting because back then I was on Wellbutrin, which is something now a lot of people get prescribed in early recovery to kind of help with like getting over, I guess, the cravings and things like that.
Absolutely.
So, but at that time, see, it's like, it's just hard. Like there's so much that's happening around, like there was so much a part of that than just, I don't know that I could just say, oh, you know, just because I went to 12-step rooms, like that's why I got sober. I think there were a lot of things. And that's like the awesomeness of like my understanding of God sometimes, where it's like, we're like, I could not have manufactured this. I would not have put myself in this place. I would not have seen that this is where I was going. But oh my gosh, it's so great, you know, those God shots.
It sounds as though like what recovery can become, or what, and even leading up to, is like a modge podge of different things. Like obviously, when I came in, I had a relationship with a God and a higher power that was absolutely different than it is now. Yeah. But it wasn't one that I was fearful of, or that I had a problem with. And I understand, especially in the queer community, how some of us kind of struggle with what we got from that community. What we got from that community and I say the community of religious people. I'm not talking about spiritual people, but religious people who really kind of made us feel unwanted, unloved, and that we were wrong, that we weren't right, you know. And so I can completely understand why folks are apprehensive, but
yeah, when we were thinking, and I don't know, I was thinking of other kind of harm reductive things that I did in recovery. So like when I got sober, you know, I stopped drinking, I stopped using drugs, but I allowed myself to shop.
Oh.
So like I started shopping in a way that I'd never shopped before. Probably was a little, you know, like a little unhealthy. And I started enjoying food in a way that I
justify it too, because honestly, it's like I would say, well, okay, it's better that I'm doing this because otherwise I would spend my money on alcohol and drugs.
Right. Well, you did have a bunch of, like I had a bunch more money. I didn't realize how much money I spent on drinking. I was like, oh my God, I have all this money. I can go shopping and I'm still.
You tip and
Right.
obviously I would buy everybody rounds or whatever, you know, living well.
Early on in recovery, I used to go out with people and buy their drinks.
Oh, I did that too. I would stop by the bar and buy shots for my friends because I would say, I don't want you to think that I'm different. I'm the same or whatever. It's like the real.
Yeah. Luckily, you know, I had people around me in early recovery that was like, you know, girl, like allow yourself a little grace, you know, like you're quitting drugs and alcohol, you know, like you can get, and it worked itself out. Eventually I was like, it didn't feel good. And I was like, I can't shop like this, or I really need to be more mindful about the way that I'm eating, you know? And it just came naturally. Like it got to a place in my life where I was like, okay, this isn't working for me either, you know?
Something that I did was like, I had told myself like when I got sober, I was gonna get an iPhone because this is when iPhones were like really big and everybody had them, and I'd be like, oh my God, I had like one of those track phones or a flip phone. I'm giving my age away, but
you did that at the beginning. Of the
I know
show.
exactly. I know it, and so I ended up getting an iPhone, and then I would spend all this money on the apps and the games and whatever, and through that process and through recovery and through doing the work constantly, and I think the work is being aware of things that need to be changed. I realized that I wasn't a very good steward of my money. Like I didn't have a relationship, or I didn't understand the value of kind of, or respect for the dollar. And it was a struggle and it was painful. And I had to go through a lot of times not having, but it's like, eventually I was able to get better at it.
To get a little better at it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was looking on my phone. I was trying to find this. I was looking up smart recovery. Smart recovery is something that, like I used to hear people talk about smart recovery. And I think that the difference with smart recovery, it was behavioral, but it was the difference in the meetings, a 12-step that I remember is that folks were able to kind of, give feedback.
Oh yeah.
Because in the meetings, in the 12-step meetings, you share, people don't crosstalk. So there was a lot of crosstalk. And the other component that there was no talk of a higher power or God.
Right, yeah.
And
it was very like knowledge, kind of like educational, right?
Absolutely.
Learning about research, learning about how alcohol is in your body and how you can kind of get off of it and away from it.
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. So it's definitely, and I think the first thing that came up was kind of behavioral and.
Did you ever do that or try that out?
No. I was already like I'm grateful. It's like, I think that I was done. I was done, and I had tried what I tried leading up to. But as far as meetings go, it's like I reached my 12-step meetings and I enjoyed it. The only thing that got better was I learned how to kind of move in between my AA meetings and my CMA meetings. But I have this amazing kind of connection and fellowship through. I also, the more time that I have and the more work that I do, I realize that when I came in, I obviously you're looking for reasons why this shit's not gonna work. And the truth of it is like, if you stop resisting, stop fighting, you realize that whatever it is that I look towards, that is going to help me to become a better version of myself, that's going to help me to find the relief that I need, then it's necessary. And kind of what I mentioned earlier, this whole idea of hodgepodge, because there are other things, other programs, other things that I have witnessed that work, like Buddhist practices, meditation, things of that nature. Like you expand your recovery. Your recovery is more than just this one thing. It's all these things that work for you. Like there's some people who dive into yoga and health. Like I have a friend who struggled so desperately with recovery and relapse. And then he found himself moving into this spiritual realm with with yoga, and it became something for him. Something that we do say in our readings, that like if you fail to enlarge your spiritual life, then you're going to go back to what you know. And so I think that that's what it comes down to. What are you living for? What is going to make you, what's going to drive you and make you become a better version of yourself? Drag, you know?
Right, yeah.
All of those things. I'm all working with my hands.
Working with your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is smart recovery harm reduction, or is it abstinence-based, or like it can be abstinence?
I don't know. I think I feel like
it's abstinence.
I feel like it's abstinence. Yes.
And then refuge to recovery is kind of the Buddhist way. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a Buddhist way. I haven't ever went to meetings, but I know.
I've friends who like really kind of were heavily involved with it, but I threatened to go to a meeting every now and then, but
they wouldn't let you in.
No. I think what it was is like one of my sober friends, or one of my friends joked to say, you're going to need to go to a meeting for going to meetings.
Right. Oops. Well, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know for me, there was a time too where like I just had to try to keep it simple. So the idea of doing another program or doing something another way was just overwhelming. And I remember like, I used to say like, well, I only need one 12-step program. If I can't fix it with AA, then, you know, like I don't want to deal with it anymore. 10 years later, I'm in the sister program of Al-Anon, which I think is my original damage, or my original struggle or challenge that, caused me to drink and use, or was like part of that whole ideal. So, but that was not, AA has not, like 12-step in of itself just hasn't been enough. I really feel like the program has been foundational. Like it's the foundation. It's something that I can land in, something that I can fall into. It's kind of like the base, but for me, I just can't get what I need in life in the rooms.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't think that it's even created for that. I don't think we're created, like we don't get sober just to stay sober. You know what I mean? Like I think I got sober so that I could, one, be sober, but also so that I could actually do life in a way that I wanted,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that you're right. I think it's a great jumping off point. But as you get to understand who you are more and what you need, then you know how to ask for it. And sometimes what you need is not right here. Like with outside help, there's medical stuff, there's mental stuff that I need to go to a doctor for, and I can't get from my sponsor, or I can't get from another person in the program. So I have to do those things. And like I said, the meditation, the exercise, there's so many different ways. Here's a joke. Like folks, when they got sober, they either did hair or became nurses or DJs.
Oh, yeah? Is that a common thing?
No. I mean, it's like, it just seems like it, but it might be just exclusive to this area.
Yeah.
We definitely all do drag.
Eventually. It's
I know, exactly.
I don't know if it's in the coffee at the Castro Country Club.
Here's a plug for Mascara. If you needed an opportunity to do some drag, talk to Miss CCC.
Right.
Bobby Friday. Get a Bobby Friday plug in there.
Plug in there. Are there any comments or anything? Our Brandon on the other mic.
We're getting a lot of comments on how great you two are.
Oh,
how
hey.
cool this is.
Oh,
they're
stop.
wonderful. It's like
Or keep going.
I feel like we're going to talk about our chocolate sweaty balls.
How about we not?
I know, exactly.
I'm excited for us to be able to invite people from these other fellowships in someday for a future episode to talk about what their experience has been in Refuge Recovery or Overeaters Anonymous or Gamblers Anonymous or all these different recovery. So if you are a listener at home and you have experience in one of these fellowships and you'd like to share that with us, you can send us an email or a text or leave us a voice message at our link below there, or comment in our messages, and we'd love to invite you to a future episode.
Yeah, that would be great. We really want this to not be all about us.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, because we're pretty self-centered, so we can definitely make it
Can't
about
go
us.
very long on that.
But yeah,
we'll peter out in a couple weeks.
Exactly. And then we start dancing and doing like it will become a different show altogether.
Start repeating ourselves, because that's what we do as we get older, right? We just repeat ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know I do.
So I think that like what's clear is that like whatever path you decide to take with regards to recovery is the right one for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're doing something to change your situation, like if what is going on is no longer working for you, then by all means, like whatever you do, I think that for me, I need feedback from folks, but I try to find trusted people that I know who genuinely have my best interest. And it might not always be easy if you are an untrusting sort, but yeah, anything that you are going to do to change your situation if it's no longer working, any road to recovery is important. And there's so many kind of outlets, so many ways, like especially the CCC, where we're at right now. It's a great place to come to connect with people who are like-minded, who can share their experience and help you to kind of make a kind of informed decision about what it is that you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think one of the things, I know when I first came into recovery, and I think it's the difference, and I think that's why it's important for people to hopefully be able to get to a space where you can, because there are lots of ways, I think, to recover. And so it's really about finding out what works for you. I think AA first worked well for me in the beginning, because in AA, my sponsor gave me a lot of directions and told me what to do and gave me tasks. And I needed that at that time in my life. I knew that I could not get different results in life. And I was just desperate to begin to get different results in life. And so I needed to know how to do different things. But one of the things I noticed about Al-Anon, they don't tell you shit. You gotta kind of figure it out for yourself, which is good, because that's usually my problem, is that I'm trying to get all up into your shit, so I don't have to deal with my shit. And so that's been an interesting adventure for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Al-Anon is maybe something later on that I might try, because they say that you scratch this, if you scratch underneath the alcoholic, you will definitely find an Al-Anon. But
Well, it was really hard, because at first I was I went to Al-Anon meetings and on purpose, and then I would get there and I'd be like, oh my God, this is not me. Or I would go to a conference and they would have this topic, and I was like, oh, that sounds really great. Sounds perfect for me. And then I'd get in there and it's an Al-Anon meeting, and I was like, oh crap. But I fought it for a long time. It was just, I don't know. I guess it was just cooler to be an addict if you're alcoholic. I don't know. But I think the reality is just I wasn't ready to accept that truth of myself and to begin to do the things that I needed to do to better myself in that area. And I think the reason why I had resentment for, or why I really struggled with it, is because I knew it was where I needed to be at some point.
Absolutely. It's and I think that's a really good point. When you're not ready, it's and getting the acceptance around where it is you need to be. If that where you need to be is church or a meeting or wherever with a therapist or in a group of folks that like some.
Yeah.
I wanted to say support groups. Support groups or self-help groups.
What do you think are some of the, like, regardless of the program, what seems to be, are there some universal kind of parts of all of it that kind of, like, I don't know, that does the same thing? Like, the thing that comes to mind for me is connection and like community, like being able to, it seems like whatever program, whatever thing you're in, it's really about kind of being around like maybe like-minded or like afflicted people who are trying to like be well in the same way. So I think the fact of not being isolated and not being just with myself is a big part. And I think I see that in most recovery.
Absolutely. And then I think that part about communicating what it is you're going through and getting it out. Like I always say, and I'm sure I borrowed this from someone else, that you don't hold on to the stuff that's inside. You give it back to the universe.
Yeah, you have to give it away.
Yeah, you got to give it back. Kind of like with love. It's like love is not love until you share it. Oh, isn't that sweet, huh?
Right. Yeah, so I think that's a common thing too, probably. I mean, I think it took, I wonder if, I think the fact that knowing that other people have recovered, I think it has been really helpful. So I think the idea of hearing other people's stories and hearing other people's success, I think whether it's done in the educational variety or via mental health or research or, just people sharing at a meeting, I think that's a big part of
it. Makes a difference, I think, for me. When I came in, I was in such a place that I needed something. And I initially wanted people to do it for me. Right. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to do the hard heavy lifting myself. I wanted people to do the work for me, to think for me. And and it really makes a difference when you see other people who are happy. Because I remember for 12 when I came into the rooms and people were laughing and carrying on or whatever, and I'm like, okay, what is this? What's going on? Are you guys laughing at me? Because they were still residual
Because it's still all about you.
Yeah, come on. You know how that works. It's
right.
Like, come on.
They're talking about me.
They're talking about me. Exactly.
Yes.
So I feel like we've come to the tail end of our conversation.
We're getting there. There was, there was something I was going to bring up when we were talking. I was like, so I think one of the things that I was helpful to remind myself around recovery when I got in recovery that I think is probably common. It's like, we don't grow, like I didn't grow up seeing a healthy way of like, and no shade to the people I grew up around. Like I love you. And
we're all raised by wolves.
It's not a judgment, but I didn't know how to live life differently. And the thing about it is it wasn't just about trying it. It was about doing it over and over and over. And I remember feeling like, it felt really unnatural. So I feel like if people are in that recovery process and it's feeling really unnatural or just feeling really awkward or weird or uncomfortable, that's like, for me, that was a good thing.
Yeah,
it was me starting to create a new groove and a new nature. Cause my nature was not to be sober. My nature was not to be, not full of myself, and so I had to begin to create a new nature. And so now it's more commonplace. It's more awkward for me to not pray when I feel a certain way, or to not go to a meeting when I feel a certain way, or to not talk shit about people, like those sorts of things. It's just become my nature now.
Yes, exactly.
That I don't even have to really think about it anymore. It's just like automatic.
It requires work.
Well, yeah, of course it does.
No, but it requires work, but it's worth it. Cause I mean, it's like, they say it's like you work it because you're worth it. Like I realize now today that all that I do is because I love myself. And this exercise of self-love means that I'm going to try, I'm looking down at the screen. I'm going to I'm going to try the things that work for me. I think that I don't get to rest on yesterday's recovery.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that what I'm doing today sustains me and keeps me going. And I don't want to just be stagnant. I don't want to be stagnant. So I think this road for me is constantly going, because I'm not recovered. I'm never going to be, I'm recovered, but I'm never going to be completely free from this malady. And so I get to constantly find ways to make this creative, fun.
One of the things that's been really kind of something I've really been like meditating on a lot is like that idea of being recovered versus like in recovery. I know that just is a language thing, but I think for me, I've gotten to a place in my life that it's important for me to see myself as like a whole well being. And like I'm at a space in my life, and maybe I'm gonna get struck down drunk or something, but like I don't think that. But you know, I feel like I'm more like whole and I'm more well, and so I feel like I desire to be in recovery still. I desire to have a spiritual way of living. I desire to be in relationship with people, you know, not because I'm broken and I need you, but because I want you. You know, like I desire for you to be in my life. And I think for a long time I couldn't allow myself to desire some things because I'd always never got it, or when I got it, it didn't feel right or didn't fit the way that I thought it would. And so for me, it's been helpful to get to a space where I don't look at myself, and I could still say I'm an addict. I can still say I'm alcoholic, but my understanding of what that means is different from when I first came in the rooms.
Absolutely. It's not a bad thing. It's me. It's my awareness that this is something that I have to do. It's kind of like with anything, like with your HIV or anything. It's like this is it's a matter of fact, but it's not everything. It
right.
doesn't completely define me, and I think that like with my recovery, what I really appreciate is I know that as long as I want to keep it, there are certain things that I need to do. All of the different things that are constantly prescribed, like sponsorship, working with others, waking up and making my bed,
right.
You know, are things that are going to help me to kind of stay the course, you know?
But you grow to have more of a desire for that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's like, and it gets to a place where it's not a labor.
Like a chore, right?
It's not a chore. It's something that I enjoy. It's like, it's that kind of maintenance phase, or that point where it's no longer, oh God, I'm pushing this rock uphill. It's I'm doing this because this is something, like for my sponsees, I tell them, you know what, you're not doing this for me. This is for you. It's all about, do you love yourself? And if you don't know yet, just act it.
Right.
act as it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel that. All right. So did we hear back from Fonda? I didn't. Sorry. So did you had something you wanted to share, right? Or what we wanted to do was like encourage people to participate with us. And so we do have this thing called a speak pipe. You can message there.
It's not what you think.
Right.
Please explain.
Yes. So it's a space. So there's a link in the description that you can click on, and basically you can leave like an audio voice message, and you can leave a voice message sharing like a thought on something, or you can give us an idea, or you can talk about something that we're going to talk about. Really anything you want, you could share there, and we'd love to kind of incorporate that into our episodes as we move forward, to kind of help guide us, and also, again, not make it all about us.
Exactly.
For instance, we did get a message on our YouTube from our last kind of pilot episode, or whatever we want to call it. Did you want to share that with folks, Brandon?
Yeah. On our last YouTube video, we got a message from Michael S. He's hoping that we will have a discussion on body image, body dysmorphia, fat phobia in recovery. That sounds very interesting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be in the lineup. I was actually listening to a podcast today where they were talking about fat phobia in particular, and kind of, I think it's kind of like that idea with like drinking. You know, it's like when you're in that, like I didn't see where there was all the drinking in my life, but I am assuming like in listening to this woman who identified as fat, there was like fat phobia and fat stigma almost everywhere she went. And so it was like, how do you deal with that? You know, there's internalized and all that. So hopefully we can get a guest on here who can speak to that a little bit more
definitely
intimately. All right. So next week we're considering doing the topic of mental health next week. We're really hoping that we can get Fonda Cox on. So we might not do that next week. So do keep an eye out, though, on what our topic will be. We will post it some way, somehow.
We may talk about body image,
right?
Body dysmorphia, but we definitely want to make sure that we are speaking to the topics that you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah, I mean, because you can really direct us. We have topics that we want to go through and conversate, and but you can kind of help us with the order of kind of what makes sense for you all and what you want to listen to. So next week, tune in. You can tune in with us every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday night,
6 p.m.
Yes,
Pacific Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube at Castro Country Club page, or you can watch us on Twitch TV at the CCC.
And it should be posted. And you can find us on all of the podcast channels at the CCC.
Yep. So just wherever you listen to podcasts, it's definitely a Buzzsprout right now. And the next couple of days, it'll start appearing on Apple and Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts. So please do, feel free to listen to the podcast. If you like that, you can listen to us on your way to work or your way home from work, or
exactly. Subscribe,
right,
and share
it. Yeah, I mean, that's a really great, that's, I think, the best thing or one of the greatest things you can do to support us is just to share. Just share it with people. If you heard something that you thought was worthwhile, or you learned something, then maybe share that with someone else that you think could benefit as well. We already talked about leaving us a message on SpeakPipe.
I get a kick out of that name, SpeakPipe.
SpeakPipe.
Pass the SpeakPipe.
Right. We're putting the pipe down, aren't we?
I put it down.
You put it down a while ago.
Exactly.
But then there's other pipe too, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So did we go over all of our?
I think that we did. Bonnie, I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Likewise. And we want to thank the Castro Country Club, which is what the CCC stands for.
Yeah, the Castro Country Club.
And they're the ones that are hosting this. And the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. They endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And it's located in the Castro.
And we must give it up to our amazing producer, Brandon. That magical voice that you heard, it sounded like the voice of God.
Right. Higher power, is that you? Yeah, thank you so much for your we couldn't do this obviously without
Absolutely
you, so thanks
not.
so much. And I think we're going to call it a night.
We're going to call it a night.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlethems and all that. I think we're supposed to talk a little bit still over the music.
We are.
And then it'll fade away.